don't give up. No matter how hard it is, take on cancer, fight it, get involved in support groups, individual counseling, lean on friends and relatives. It's not being weak, it's actually a sign of strength by doing that. What happened was late 2021, I was down in Florida working remotely during the pandemic, and I started feeling sick during the latter part of 2021. I thought I might have COVID, and I went and got checked, to see if I had COVID, and I didn't have COVID, and then I started feeling a little bit better. And in middle of February 2022, I flew back to New York City. I started feeling sick again, shortly after I got back. I'd get back on the trains, the subways, I'd go up the staircases, and I was really out of breath. So finally, in early April of 2022, I went to see my PCP and told him what was going on. And he ran a host of tests, blood work, urinalysis. I think he did a chest X also. The following day, he calls me up and says, Ira, your hemoglobin level is low. You have anemia. I want you to go get a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. To move the story ahead, in the middle of April, I went to a GI doctor in Manhattan, New York City, to get both examinations, both procedures done. When I woke up, the GI doctor basically told me that the colonoscopy came back fine, but she had concerns with what she saw in the endoscopy. At that point in time, they thought I had esophageal cancer. She started asking me if I had a history of that, family history. Was I a smoker? Did I eat certain types of food? Did I have acid reflux, and et cetera, et cetera? And I told her there was no family history. Last time I even touched a cigarette, which was like just puffing, not even inhaling, was in the spring of 2006. I don't have acid reflux and so on. But she said, we're going to run some biopsies and we'll get back to you the following week. So that was a Friday. Early the following week, like the 18th and 19th, the biopsies came in and it confirmed what she saw, endocarcinoma. And they thought it was esophageal cancer at that time. They saw something down in the lower part of the esophagus. So subsequently, I got an endoscopic ultrasound. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. I always pronounce it wrong. At NYU Langone later that week. Those results came back, basically confirmed what the biopsy said. Then I ended up getting, during the last couple of weeks of April, I got a CAT scan and then subsequently a PET scan. In early May of 2022, I met with a surgeon at NYU Langone in New York City. He told me, he diagnosed me as having a gastric cancer, stomach cancer. He said that 80% of the cancer, the mass, was in the upper part of the stomach, and the other approximately 20% was in the lower part of the esophagus. It was the size of a golf. He said I was at stage 3. Later that day, I saw the oncologist for the first time, and she had looked at all the test results, the GI, the endoscopic, the CAT scan, the PET scan. Up at that point, she, if I remember correctly, had me at stage 2, possibly 3. And she was talking about all different types of chemo treatments and so on. And a lot of this was going over my head. So I saw her and the surgeon in early May, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd, May 17th. What we're going to do is we're going to put the port in my chest. That's where the chemo was going to go in. And later that day, we're going to start the first chemo session. However, 2 days early on the 15th, I started feeling dizzy. And I was staying at a hotel at that time, and I fell down on my butt, and I broke my leg, my right leg. And they had to come upstairs and take me to another hospital nearby in New York City, where I was there for about 2 weeks. And instead of starting the chemo on May 17th, I had a blood transfusion and had the orthopedic surgeon operate on my leg and put a rod in there, straighten it up and everything. So the chemo was postponed. And then they had to find me a place to go to, like a subacute short-term rehab, because I wasn't healthy enough to go home right away and so on. I wasn't healthy enough to do that. I mean, even when I was in the hospital, that hospital for approximately 2 weeks, I couldn't even get up and use the bathroom. I couldn't even engage in occupational therapy or mobility instruction. I was so weak. It'd take like 2 or 3 people just to get me off the bed and put me on a commode so I could do my business and everything. Eventually, I went to a subacute rehab facility in Brooklyn, New York. I was there for about 4 to 5 weeks, and I got stronger while I was there. And while I was there, I got transported into Manhattan to start the chemo. So the chemo was every other week. Now, I didn't know what chemo was. You hear about these stories about chemo and everything. Sitting there and they give you the anti-nausea medication and so on, relaxing, you're watching TV, fall asleep and so on. It's the side effects, the fatigue, the neuropathy in my fingers and feet, which I still have, metallic taste in your mouth when even you drink water, the nausea, digestive issues, you name it, I had it, and so on. And then I went back for another session. I got transported there, had another chemo session, the latter part of June. Actually, I think the middle part of June, I'm not sure the dates, but there were 2 chemos in June and so on. I get 2 more chemos in July. I went back and get a CAT scan, IV contrast, and then I saw the surgeon again. And he said, good news, it decreased it, and it didn't spread. So he started talking about surgery like in September. And at that point, he said a full removal. So I was happy that it decreased, but then I started getting worried. Like I thought he said it was going to be a partial, not a full. And then I started doing research, like what was going to be the quality of my life. And to make a long story short, I put off the September one. I spoke to the oncologist and she spoke to the surgeon, and they decided, okay, we're going to do the other 4 sessions of chemo now, the treatments, and then see how it goes, and then do the surgery like before the end of 2022. So went for 4 more chemos in August and September. The last one was like in October. And by that time, I went on long-term disability from my job. I've been back now for almost 10 months. I can't believe it. So I was out for a full year. But before that, during the summer of 2022, I was pushing myself to work. If I could put in like 10 hours a week, it was amazing. To move the story back a little bit. When I was in rehab, I was going through an emotional turmoil. I tell people there were like 2 Iras there. There was the Ira who was crying a lot and upset, not knowing what my future was going to be like. Then there was the other Ira, what I would say maybe the stronger Ira, the Ira that would go around saying, I'm going to kick cancer's butt. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be a survivor. And these 2 Iras were battling it out, like almost on a daily basis. But the Ira that was going to go ahead and fight this and everything took over. So I get more chemo in August, September, October, and then there's more testing done again. And it seems like it decreased it a little bit more. The bottom line is, though, it was never going to get rid of it completely. And then at one point, I wanted to go and get a second opinion. So I went to another hospital in Manhattan, and it was his opinion also that I had to get the full stomach taken out. Then the first surgeon, when I saw him like around November-ish, he's retiring. Then I met his replacement. He also said, this is why, Ira, you need a full stomach removal. And it finally clicked into me. I have 3 surgeons all saying full. So surgery was scheduled for February 20. I should know this date like my birthday. I'm saying the 23rd or 24th of 2023. And that morning I went up there. The surgery lasted approximately 4 hours. And I remember before they put me under, I asked what time it was, and they told me what time it was. And then I remember saying, Mom and Dad, get me through this. And I went under, and next thing you know, I was awake. The surgeon was talking to me. He said it was successful. He also told me surgery is the sprint diver, the recovery is the journey, and so on. It's like a marathon. And I was in the hospital for about a week or so on. And my wife was able to stay over the first night, and they ran tests with me. And I got a little OT and mobility instruction and all that stuff. I got stronger. I was able to use the bathroom. They wanted me to leave a little earlier, but I said no. Let me stay the extra night, which is good because I had a tube on the side of me that was taking out all this other gook and everything from the surgery. And luckily I stayed the next day because that stuff started leaking when they took it out. If I would have left the day they wanted me to, I would have been back in the emergency room. So, and then I got medication and everything. So I was there from a Friday until the following Thursday. So I was there Friday to surgery, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I was there 7 days. And then after the surgery, over the last year, I've been, I lost a lot of weight, which was a given. I knew I would lose a lot of weight, weak and so on. I have medications. I've gone back to see the orthopedist, not the orthopedist, I'm sorry, the oncologist. Blood work is done. It's, blood work occasionally, maybe the hemoglobin is not as high as it should be, or the potassium is a little low, so they'll give you some medication to take for that and so on, and all that. The neuropathy is still there. That's a common thing also. Losing a lot of weight and neuropathy is still there, even though I haven't had chemo in such a long period of time. So the neuropathy is still there. It's annoying. It's not that painful, but it's annoying. I don't need to use the walker or a cane anymore. I was using a walker and cane for a long time, during the chemos and even after surgery and everything. So I'm okay with that right now and everything. But I'd go back and see the oncologist over the last year. Every few months, they would do blood work, take my vitals. They would also send blood work to an outside lab outside of NYU Langone. They would do to see whether any cancer cells came back to the blood. And so far, nothing there. And I've already had 2 post-surgery CAT scans with IV contrast that cover the abdomen, chest, and pelvis. So far, NED, no evidence of disease. So cancer has not come back to any of the other organs. So far, NED, no evidence of disease. So cancer has not come back to any of the other organs. I am so grateful that I am here. I am so grateful that I had an extensive network of support from my wife and other family members, friends who are like brothers and sisters to me, the oncologists, the surgeons, the nurses, the social workers, rehab people, my colleagues at work, and so many others. You need the support. I'm cautiously optimistic going forward. My message to other people is, my advice is, don't give up. No matter how hard it is, take on cancer, fight it, get involved in support groups, individual counseling, lean on friends and relatives. It's not being weak. It's actually a sign of strength by doing that. However, there's some things happen when you do have cancer and you're one of the lucky ones and you're a survivor. You become stronger in different ways. You become fearless. If you're able to get through this and survive, and everything you went through, whether it's gastric cancer, regardless of the stage, or any other type of cancer, you become extremely strong. I'm not saying you don't give a damn about other things going on, but you take things in stride, and you have a different outlook on life going forward and so on. You become stronger. And I even got, I don't know if you can see it, it says Cancer Survivor. I got this. This was a gift to myself. I got this in June in periwinkle blue. Periwinkle blue is the color for gastric stomach cancer. I got that and so on. And the year before, I got another tattoo, To Be Continued.